Hello, this is Mike Oliver with SOA Fundamentals course, SOA and the ESB. What's the relationship? An Enterprise Service Bus, or ESB, is a message-oriented middleware that allows you to do connections between various systems in an orderly and systematic way. But an ESB isn't necessarily going to give you SOA, or having an ESB may actually hurt your SOA. It depends on how you do it. So let's look at that. Many successful SOA implementations include an ESB. And the reasons are obvious, and we'll get into some of that. But an ESB allows you to control access to the APIs. It allows you to integrate your systems in a standardized way. So if you use an ESB as part of your SOA strategy, not as the sole aspect of your SOA strategy, it can be very successful for you. But you can have a successful SOA without an ESB. And I'll show you some examples of that. So don't necessarily think that because you're buying an ESB, that's going to solve your SOA problems, or vice versa. You can have an unsuccessful SOA with an ESB. You can do everything with an ESB that you can do point to point, and then just have it running on the ESB. And it actually will cost you more in both performance and license fees. So, when an ESB helps your SOA is when you have a large percentage of solutions that are commercial off-the-shelf software or legacy systems that you need to integrate, and those are going to be something you don't want to change internally. So you need something that will adapt their APIs and allow you to interoperate with them. When there's a plethora of APIs to be integrated, if you've got hundreds of APIs on dozens of systems and you need to standardize the way they all talk to each other, an ESB is an excellent way of doing it. And then when there are many services that need to be shared, an ESB is ideal. Because with an ESB, you build an atomic service, and then you can scale it up. You can have multiple instances of it. You can have federated ESBs with different instances and different parameters and different access controls and so forth. So an ESB and a federated ESB installation can help with having many different APIs that are shared. When an ESB does not help your SOA is when you have SOA, you're not following the SOA principles like standardized service contracts and canonical schema. If you're not doing that, you're really not doing SOA, because the standardized service contract and the canonical schema is what prevents you from having to do data model transformation and protocol transformation on every connection. And so you can have an ESB and still be doing everything point to point with every service you write, doing a data model transformation and a protocol transformation. That's not SOA. That's just using this ESB as your integration point. When you try to do everything on the ESB, that's a mistake. Yes, you can have a SOAP or a REST interface that connects directly to your ESB, and that facade then can talk to your orchestration service, and you can do everything. You can build the entire application within your ESB. But that's not really practical. It's costly. There are a lot better GUI tools out there, GUI frameworks, application frameworks, business process frameworks. There's a lot of different ways that you can build the presentation layer and still take advantage of your shared services in the ESB. So if you're going to use an ESB, do it where it applies the most. Do it where you're managing shared services, but don't try and do everything on the ESB. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. I've been in organizations, they decided to go with SOA, and they decomposed all of their applications, especially the home-built ones, into separate SOAP calls, and then they said, see, we've got SOA. Everything is wrapped in a SOAP container. And I laughed and I said, okay, show me your SOA stuff. And they didn't understand what I was talking about. So, SOA without an ESB. You look at the left, and that's the typical accidental architecture where you grew things and you added applications and you did point-to-point integration, and you had different consumers and they all talked to the different systems, each with a point-to-point integration. That's the way things happen. That's just the common way they build enterprise up. On the right, you have a layered approach where you have your solutions at the bottom. You have a connectivity layer, you have a services or process layer, you have an application layer, and you have a presentation layer. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an ESB. You can use JMS or message queue or Spring integration, or you can use REST and SOAP if you do it in a standardized way. And then your presentation layer, if it's a well-designed business process management layer with a GUI, then that doesn't need to have an ESB either. Now, here's an integration platform for a large integration with a successful SOA. And you notice we've got the same connectivity layer, process layer, applications layer, presentation layer. We've got the legacy systems and the commercial off-the-shelf system and the data at the bottom. We've got big data extracting from every process and every transaction. We've got some direct connections of our consumers to the APIs. Now, one of the things that we've done is that we take that ESB and we add on to it an API manager. And the API manager allows us to publish APIs, to get reuse of those, even to monetize our APIs. And we can do that through our API gateway, which allows our consumers to come through the gateway as an application firewall and access the APIs and the various services underneath in a controlled, policy-controlled way. And we've got a business process management system that also has a GUI and also has the ability to support all of the systems inside, and it has this support for long-running transactions in a business process. This is what a good SOA looks like. So, thank you, and see you on the next lesson.